Hello, everybody. Good morning. My real F word, if anybody is a Ted Lasso fan, Roy Kent is my spirit animal. But for today, my F word is flexible. So I have to wear my glasses to read, which also means I can't see you. The Nussbaum Center for Entrepreneurship, show of hands, how many of y'all have ever heard of the Nussbaum Center for Entrepreneurship? How many of y'all have ever been to the Nussbaum Center for Entrepreneurship? Okay, so fewer hands. So we have to fix that. So the Nussbaum Center for Entrepreneurship, we are located in Greensboro, North Carolina. We are actually the second oldest small business incubator in the state of North Carolina, but we are the largest. We were founded in 1988. We have a 65,000 square foot small business incubator. Back in 1988, when we were founded, 90% of small businesses were failing in their first year of operation. And so our founders came up with this idea that they wanted to create a one-stop shop. They thought that they could reduce those barriers to success if they put all of the resources under one roof. And to let you know how that's working, 79% of our graduates are still in operation after 5 years. And 61% are still in operation after 10 years. So right now I have 68 small businesses in-house with me, and those 68 small businesses are on track to do $50 million in revenue this year. Yeah. What's really awesome is that 82% of my businesses are MWBE. An important note about the Nussbaum Center, so we are not designed to be anybody's forever home. A business moves into the smallest space possible. As their business grows, their space grows. Eventually, they outgrow us, they graduate, a new business moves in, and they are able to take advantage of the same opportunities that that business that just moved out had. And those businesses, typically when they leave us, they are purchasing real estate. So they are increasing their own personal wealth through real estate acquisition when they graduate from the Nussbaum Center. One of our most notable graduates right now, because they change all the time, right? One of our most notable graduates right now is Gorilla RF. They are a fabless semiconductor maker. They were actually a SEED award recipient back in 2014. We helped them with their grant. That $50,000 grant gave them the credibility to go on to raise more money. To date, Gorilla RF has raised over $67 million. And this year, they are on track to do between $22 and $23 million in revenue. Check them out. So what's next for the Nussbaum Center? So what's next is my single slide that was up on the screen, the Steelhouse. The Steelhouse is an 11-year overnight success. We actually, we were donated, both of our buildings were donated to us. And with the Steelhouse, when the donors came to us and said, hey, do you guys want to take a crack at doing something with this building too? Sam Funches, our CEO, said, sure, why not? And so we hosted a series of community conversations. We invited anybody and everybody who wanted to walk through the space and to tell us how to use it. And then, in partnership with the SBTDC, and this was mentioned yesterday, we hired an intern from Winston-Salem State University. He had a bachelor's degree in civil engineering, and he was working on his MBA. And so he took this literally yellow file folder of ideas that people had given us for how to use the space, and he turned that into a feasibility study. Now, this was back between 2014, 2015, and as happens a lot in our world, right, it got put in the cloud. And so I came on board with the Nussbaum Center in April of 2018. In June of 2019, we went to Hamburg, Germany on a Rotary International Convention trip, and we toured the Lufthansa facility. And as we were walking around the facility, I said to our CEO, I said, this is what we need to do with the Steelhouse. We need to do something like this. And Sam said to me, he said, when we get back home, pull out the file. We had a whole feasibility study done. Find that file, read that file. And so I pulled the file out and I turned to Sam and I said, this is the future of the Nussbaum Center. This is what gets us to 100% self-sustainability. One of the great things about the Nussbaum Center is that I pay my own bills because I have 90% earned revenue. I only fundraise for 7 to 10% of my budget annually. It's huge for a nonprofit to have that kind of earned income, and it allows us the flexibility to run our programs the way that we see works best for the entrepreneurs. So the Steelhouse is a 3-phased project. Phase 1 opens in about 3 weeks. Phase 1 is a manufacturing center. So in total, it'll be an 85,000 square foot manufacturing center. Right now, it's going to be about 32,000 square feet. What we recognize in the triad is that the entrepreneur spaces that are opening up are the same types of spaces, right? They're co-working spaces, they're day desks, they're office space. So if you are a certain segment of entrepreneur, you don't have the same access as a service-based business. You don't have access to the flexible space that your dirty business needs. So the Steelhouse will provide that dirty space. So I have 3 tenants that'll be moving in before December 31st. Into our brand new manufacturing center. And these are flexible bays from 2,000 square feet to 3,000 square feet, same business model as next door. You start in the smallest space possible. As your business grows, your space grows. Eventually, you're going to outgrow my Steelhouse. You're going to buy your own 10,000 square foot building, and you're going to generate wealth for you and your family. Phase 3, and I jump on purpose, phase 3 will be a 30,000 square foot food production facility. So how many of y'all are familiar with Blue Ridge Food Ventures in Candler? Yes? So the highest form of flattery is imitation, right? So we're going to copy what they did. Now, they're about 11,000 square feet. I'm going to have about 30,000 square feet. But we started this in 2024. I converted a 500 square foot office into a shared use commercial kitchen. So I have a North Carolina Department of Ag level 2 kitchen inside my incubator right now. The idea being that these food entrepreneurs are going to scale up from an hourly kitchen to a private 200 square foot kitchen, to a private 500 square foot kitchen, to a private 1,000 square foot kitchen, to purchasing their own production facility and eventually moving on to co-packing. So everything that we do is designed to be flexible. Flexible for the entrepreneur. We know you have to bob and weave out there. We know you have to pivot. So everything that we do allows you to do that. Phase 2. So now going back. So phase 2. So remember I said we hosted these series of community conversations. We invited our neighbors to come in. The Nussbaum Center and the Steelhouse are located in an opportunity zone, a qualified census tract, a food desert, and a healthcare desert. So we wanted to be sure that we were not just serving the entrepreneurs and the small businesses throughout our community, but that we were providing our neighbors with something of value. And Mr. Scales from the Warnersville Neighborhood Coalition told me that they've been trying to get a doctor's office in their neighborhood for 50 years. We don't have a grocery store. The closest grocery store is 2 buses or a 45-minute walk if you don't have a car. And 1 in 5 of my neighbors don't have cars. So phase 2 of the Steelhouse is community space. 15,000 square feet of health care. Triad Adult Pediatric Medicine, a federally qualified healthcare center, will partner with us to provide primary care, maternal and child care, social work, mental health, lab, pharmacy, and dental. We'll have additional small offices because my small business incubator stays at about 98% occupancy. And then we're going to do a 20,000 square foot year-round indoor farmers market. Now, the important thing to know about the Nussbaum Center is that I don't stand up new programs. I partner with existing programs. I don't want to dilute an already risky atmosphere that's out there. So instead of standing up a new farmers market, I'm going to partner with the ones that already exist in Greensboro. So we're already talking to the North Carolina Department of Agriculture. We're already talking to the People's Market, to the City of Greensboro, to the Corners Market. What we want to do is we want to provide a second venue for their vendors to be able to increase their revenue. And then finally, a community space. What we hear from our neighbors and from all of our neighborhoods is that there's not a space large enough for all of them to come together to try and solve and address the problems that they are all working on in their neighborhood. So instead, they're all siloed. They're all working on the exact same problems, but they're siloed in how they do that. So the Steelhouse will provide a space large enough where all of the neighborhoods can come together and they can collectively begin to have conversations about how to solve the challenges that have plagued their neighborhoods for 50 plus years. That's the Steelhouse. So if you haven't been to the Nussbaum Center, if you haven't been to the Steelhouse, my contact information is on that screen. You can find me in the room, but I would love to give you a tour. I'd love to share more information about what we're doing in Greensboro. And thank you so much, NC IDEA. Thank you so much, Wells Fargo. Thank you so much to all of the partners that are in the room. We appreciate you so much, and we couldn't do it without you. Thank you.
Good morning. Thank you to the NC IDEA team for inviting me to come up and share a few minutes about the work we've been doing in Wilson with Gig East over the last several years. Now, when I was thinking about what to share today, I was going through different numbers and statistics, but honestly, I'm not very good at math. I'm a communicator, and I think through stories. So if you will allow me, I'd like to invite you into our story of Gig East and Wilson and Greenlight over the last several years. Now, in Wilson, those three names are thrown out in conjunction very often. So I'm going to try to make it a little bit more clear to you. So our story actually begins in 2008 when our city leadership in Wilson realized that large telecom providers did not see value in bringing fiber optic connection to rural areas, and specifically rural eastern North Carolina. And we already knew how valuable this connection was going to be, how it was going to change the lives of all of our citizens. So we decided to build a system to provide that connection to our residents ourselves so that we can maintain it and make sure it operated at the level that we wanted it to Wilson level standards. So the city created Greenlight Community Broadband, and it took off. Now, over the next few years, we did face some pushback, some different issues. So we're going to jump forward a little bit to the early 2010s, where we've come on the other side of these issues, still able to operate, but limited to Wilson County. Which is fine. That's our home area, and we're going to serve them to the best that we can. Now, around this same time, our downtown revitalization is picking up, and the Vala Simpson Whirligig Park is opening. Who has ever been to the Whirligig Park? Fantastic. Yeah, so you know how just standing there looking up at these large moving sculptures, it just feels energizing, especially on a nice spring day. When you're feeling the breeze, you can hear them moving, and it's a very visual picture of how our community operates in Wilson. A lot of different pieces that might operate differently, look differently from one another, but they work together to create this beautiful masterpiece of energy and movement. So we love gigs in Wilson. Now we've got the Whirligig Park, we've got our gigabit internet, and the city decides, okay, we've got this fantastic infrastructure. How do we enable people to use it, not just for surfing the web or online shopping or looking things up? How do we make people realize that this can truly be a life-changing opportunity? How do we activate this to pour back into our local economy, to pour into economic development, and to enable rural technology development? So Gig East is born. It's born with the first Gig East Summit in 2016. How many of you have been to a Gig East Summit before? Oh, fantastic. Well, I'll invite you to come back next year. I'm going to talk about that a little bit more in a minute. And thank you to NC IDEA. We've been a grant recipient for the summit for several years now, and that is just so helpful. So the Gig East Summit starts in 2016. We begin talking about the state of broadband, obviously, because that was top of mind at the moment. And the conversations are fantastic. The energy is fantastic. We have people coming from all parts of North Carolina into Wilson and into Eastern North Carolina, which we love. I'm so glad I got to follow that panel on what's happening in other parts of Eastern North Carolina today, because that just felt so timely. As an Eastern North Carolina native, I love the work that you're doing. I love what is happening. Yes, please come to Wilson. We can connect later. But yeah, the conversations need a place to live. And so we host different events over the next few years. We receive a grant from the Golden Leaf Foundation to renovate a building in historic downtown Wilson. And this is what becomes the Gig East Exchange. So now, I want you to walk with me into a very chilly November day. It's November 18th, 2020, exactly 5 years ago today, and it's the first day that the Gig East Exchange opened its doors to the public. Now, you're probably thinking, I don't want to go back to 2020. And I agree. The Gig East Exchange was meant to open earlier in the year. Obviously, it got sidetracked by COVID and construction delays, but we opened on November 18th. The first member in the exchange was a coffee shop called Lorema Coffee Shop. Their original location was in nearby Rocky Mount. They were looking to open a location in Wilson. We had a self-service kitchen in the exchange that could not be used because of, germs. So they come in, they're able to operate in that space for us. So we opened that day. There's a slow trickle of people coming in and out to get coffee. If you look around the landscape of the rest of the street, there's a few businesses that have popped up. For the most part, it's pretty empty. And, restrictions were still pretty tight at this point, so there's not a lot of moving about going on. And my coworkers and I stood in the co-working space of the exchange, which when you walk in, that's the main area, and the coffee shop was there in the front. And we're standing there, and we're looking around, and our voices are echoing because all of our furniture is still on the other side of the world. So we've got about 4 chairs and 2 tables, and we're saying, what do we do now? We had a game plan, but the whole playing field has changed. What do we do with this space? Who is going to come work here? Who's going to co-work when you can't even be within 6 feet of somebody else? But all you can do, I love the word flexibility that was thrown out earlier, is pivot and take it one step at a time. So we move forward. We have Lorema downstairs. One of our first members was a graduate of the Riot Accelerator program. Riot has been just an invaluable, fantastic supporter and friend, that's my F word, of Gig East. And so we have one member upstairs, one member downstairs. Very soon we pick up a Wilson native who has decided to move his business from Morrisville back to Wilson because in his heart he really wanted to be in his hometown. He just didn't have the tools that he needed to come back to Wilson until now. So Bill O'Boyle moves North State Consulting into the exchange. Very quickly, they take off. He ends up filling up, I would say, 12 of our 14 office spaces. Yes, they moved into all of them. So they operate out of the exchange for about a year and a half. He buys a building on Nash Street, renovates it. By the time he moves his business in there, they've already outgrown it. He's got to buy another one. So he buys a building behind the exchange, actually renovates it. They move in there. Now, by this point, I would say we're probably in 2022, 2023. Restrictions have eased. We open co-working. People are realizing that they can't just work from home all the time. There's too many distractions. There's kids, there's laundry, there's dogs barking. Yep, so co-working memberships are picking up. And we are trying to figure out, okay, what is our role? We're fortunate, another F word, to have so many great resource providers in Wilson. But because our original game plan got thrown off track by COVID, we're trying to figure out, okay, what is our specific niche? We've tried hosting different types of events. Some worked really well, some really did not. So we're trying to figure out what is our identity. People are still walking into the exchange going, what is this place? If I had $1 for every time I answered the question, what is this place? Oh my gosh, we could do so much. We could renovate a whole other building. So we're trying to make it more clear what the exchange is and how it can be used. And we very quickly realized that we didn't need to work super hard to give it an identity because its identity is our community. It's the members that are coming in and out. We realized that if we just let ourselves reflect what our members need and who we are as Wilson, that is our identity. And that's what makes people feel comfortable coming in and working. So we press forward. Now we're in 2025. We've grown to 160 members at the exchange. We host, thank you. We host about 50 events a year. Some of those are pass-through events, so we've done trainings through partners on Grow with Google, through Microsoft certifications, CompTIA, Cisco, all kinds of things we've been offering through the exchange through fantastic partnerships, many of whom are in the room today. We're still hosting the Gig East Summit. We've also launched 2 of our own programs that I'm extremely excited about. One is called Greenlight Ed. So we realized that the value of home internet is only as helpful as how people know how to use it. So we have lots of people who have this connection. They don't even realize what they can use it for. If you're homebound, you can do online banking, you can do online healthcare, and save yourself a lot of energy or potential threats from trying to leave your home. So we invite our Greenlight members in. They get to work one-on-one with our Greenlight staff to practice using their remote, turning on a laptop, essential internet skills that we take for granted growing and living in this digital age, but a lot of people still feel so much intimidation by. So we offer them to come into this space. We give them coffee, we give them donuts, we give them good conversation, and just give them a place to test out these new skills in a way that's comfortable. We also have launched Navigation East. Navigation East is one step up from Greenlight Ed, where you've become comfortable using your equipment or your laptop or what have you, but now you're going to come in, still a very small class size, and take the next step. So we have learners who have now mastered the Google Suites. They're making slides. They're using Gmail. They're doing things in Sheets that I don't even know how to do, So we're watching people learn and grow, but it's at a pace that they feel comfortable with. We're not trying to rush people. And we realize that is the key. Having these informal conversations, making these friendships is what people need and what they're looking for in this post-COVID environment. So we have Greenlight Ed, we have Navigation East. There's a couple programs coming up into our next era, as I'm calling it, of Gig East that I'm very excited about. One is our new Smart Agriculture Test Bed, which we're calling Gig East Source. So this is our second physical location in our Gig East ecosystem. So this is a place where local growers can come in, they can try out new crops in a controlled environment, and tech developers can come in and try out new technology in partnership with these growers. So it's a source for new technology, new ideas, new partnerships. So if you work in the ag tech space or are a grower or have any interest in this at all, please find me or Greg Dunko with the Riot team. We'd love to tell you more about it. So that's one project we're excited about. Another project that has become a big success story in the last year is that we have opened a Pearson VUE testing center at the Exchange. So now if you need to get any sort of certified proctor test, we're the only location between Greenville and Raleigh. So we are testing over 80 people a month because the demand is so high. People don't want to drive or don't have the time to drive, to one of the more metropolitan areas from where we are in Eastern North Carolina, so they can come in and do that at the Exchange. So that has taken off in ways that we did not even anticipate. The next thing I'm excited about is what we're calling the Year of Gig East. So today is the 5-year anniversary of the Exchange, but 2026 will be 10 years of Gig East as an ecosystem, as this innovation economy in Wilson with a formalized name. So please follow along with us on our social media channels, on our website, on our email list, because we're going to do a whole year of celebrating. We're going to revisit topics that we talked about early in our history, like broadband and digital skilling and different things like that, and talk about where we are today, how we're moving forward, because a lot of these issues still exist. They've just taken on new levels, new dynamics that we're trying to navigate. So we'll start off the year with a kickoff celebrating the Exchange in these 5 years. Then we'll go throughout the rest of the year with all kinds of fun events and opportunities, and we'll have the Gig East Summit. So keep an eye out for that. It's typically in the spring. We would love for you all to be there, because if you're in this room, you are playing a part in the entrepreneurship innovation story of North Carolina. We're all playing a part in the same story. So please come out, engage with us, partner with us. And yeah, thank you.